Nobody else would have. It couldn't have been anyone else in the panel, could it?
Would you like to meet me?
Yes. After the show, Frank. I'm sorry you didn't beat the panel.
So am I.
Great pity. However, they, after the way they lost the last two, they deserve to win one, I think. We give them one more chance, and that, I think, leaves it even, doesn't it, at the moment? 3 and 2, yes. One more chance. Will our final challenger sign in? No, we haven't got time for one more challenger. It's a pity. A nice-looking one, too. One of the best-looking we've had tonight. Anyway, that's all we have time for right now. On behalf of our two panels, Peter Martin and myself, this is Bernard Braden saying thank you for watching and good night.
It's nice having the family together again after 35 years, isn't it?
Hey, where's the sexy one with the dark hair?
Just coming through the door, Dad.
Through the door?
Hello!
Oh, ain't seen you since 1955. You're still sitting round the same table drinking the same old horrible tea. Don't you ever go out?
Yeah, I see the old Biddy's still going strong, eh?
Not for long, though. Apparently they're going to recreate us using soap stars from EastEnders and Brookside of Coronation Street.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm buggered if I'm having anything to do with it. I'm off to watch BBC2. Help yourselves to more tea.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Bob, come here. Now, Leslie Grantham's playing you, so be nice to him, won't you?
Oh, yeah, Sue Johnson's playing you.
No, they decided not to because she hasn't got the class, you see.
No, well, apparently she's a very good actress, as it happens.
Oh, no. I mean, they wouldn't replace me, would they? I mean, I'm a household name, after all.
Not like Harpic.
Oh.
You know, those of us who've been in television since the beginning realize that nothing succeeds like a series or a serial. I almost said nothing succeeds like excess. In fact, the DG sometimes says, jokingly of course, that if one televised a few pages of the London telephone directory regularly for 5 or 6 weeks, one would gain an average audience of over 10 million.
I do feel silly just sitting here being waited on.
Now, you just sit marked down, Mum. We'll do all the work. Any more bacon pie?
No, there isn't. And would you take these plates into the kitchen and start washing up?
Oh, well, never mind. I'll save you some marmalade.
No, you won't. You'll take the marmalade into the kitchen and help Lady wash up.
Very good, like Jack.
My plan, in a nutshell, is to put on every evening at a peak viewing hour a program that will, well, that will mirror the lives of an ordinary, happily married husband and wife. We show their ups and downs, their, well, the fun they get out of life, the minor tragedies that inevitably creep into their lives, their hobbies, what they're talking about, thinking, reading, and so on, so on, and so on.
A sort of Mrs. Dale's diary, in fact.
The Grove family began in April 1954. It was cheap, a mere 400 guineas per episode. It was live, only 2 episodes were ever recorded, and it was the first ever family serial on British television.
The first title, they called it The Welcomes, and I remember looking and said, the last thing I want to produce is anything called The Welcomes, you know. And we were just moving into here. I'd already produced things here, and I said, why not? We're in Lime Grove, call it The Groves.
In many ways, The Groves was the first soap opera on British television. It was obviously drawing on the Archers and the Dales to some extent from radio. But it was clearly the first time that the nation had been gripped by the ongoing story of a television family. So if that's the definition of a soap, then yes, it was the first soap.
Oh, you know, we're very lucky, Bob. Despite all that's happened, we're still a very happy family.
Yeah, and we're all going on holiday, and we're all looking forward to it.
But I'm worried about
The part I played in the Groves was that of a builder called Mr. Grove, and I think he lived in Clapham and had a slight Clapham accent.
You know, Grove's not the man he was. And I'm sure Gladys is going to overwork on this holiday.
Oh, now, Gran, you just stop worrying. There's Jack, Lenny, Daphne, Jane, and myself to do all the work.
I played Pat, who was the elder daughter, and she was kind of attractive, happy, sort of nice girl next door, if you like.
Why are they called both she?
Oh, I just said it. Beauty.
Well, girls aren't beautiful.
You stay thinking that, lad, and you won't come to any mischief.
I played a part called Jack. He was a bit of a lad, really, Jack Grove. I seem to have endless girlfriends in the series, as far as I can remember, and that really was my role, was the kind of various love affairs that I had.
You know, Jack, the more I think of you, the more I think boat shouldn't be called she.
What does that cryptic statement mean?
Well, I mean, look at all the trouble women have caused you.
I like your flipping cheek.
The character I played with Lenny, that's the youngest of the 4 children. Nothing exceptional, just a young, boisterous, typical child of that period.
There's a beauty now, Dad.
Oh, yes, dear. A mere 6,000 next work.
Oh, ridiculous. No car could be worth that much.
Oh, yes, it could. There was a Maharaj who had rubies instead of reflectors.
Pipe down, Lenny.
Of course, if you were prepared to buy one on hire purchase.
I'm not. When I take the family out for a drive in a car that belongs to me, not to a row of offices in the city. Well, they are, Jack. 1939, a snip.
Got to be careful of these pre-war jobs, Dad. You can be buying a packet of trouble.
That's quite right. That's Grove all over. Spoil the ship right at the top. Why don't you have a new car and be done with it?
Because I've got £100, Grandma. Of course, if you could fork out those sovereigns that you've got hidden under the bed.
Oh, no, you don't. Those sovereigns are there for an emergency, not for riotous living.
Well, then let me pick my own car.
Certainly. But don't expect me to come in it if it is respectable.
The world the Groves live in is very safe, it's very secure, it's fairly smug, it's very cosy. People get on, there's the occasional nosy neighbour, but nothing really disrupts the social fabric. Policemen are always nice, everyone has a job, nice girls go out with boys but don't go too far. Everybody is part of this nice, safe, secure, cosy unit.
There's nothing really better than what you're used to, is there?
I see those bank clerks, middle class I call them, £15 a week, all worry. No, I don't think that life would suit me.
Well, what's your idea of life?
Of life? I'd like to build my life around my pleasures.
2 grams, run
He died,
tennis.
unfortunately. He went to Guernsey because of tax things and died. It was most unhappy to say.
Yes, Michael's just gone.
Michael died, not just gone.
Michael and Roland.
Oh, I didn't know there were any of these around.
This is turning the clock back, isn't it?
Oh,
yes.
dear. Now, Mr. Grove, you employ a number of men from time to time, and I take it that their pay packets are about.
Yes, they are. I'd forgotten about that.
Yes, and don't forget Gran's nest egg, Dad. My grandma keeps a tidy sum parked under her bed.
Oh, does she? Well, why doesn't she deposit it with a bank? Or set a simple wall safe, like this.
Trouble is, she's a very obstinate old party.
Well, there you are, you see. Money under the bed. That's a very substantial inducement. Yes.
The episode we saw, I thought, was rather dull, because it seemed to me to be a documentary. Actually, it was done, I think, in collaboration with the police, and it was all about locks and burglar proofing and this kind of thing, which was very tedious, although I suppose was good advice for the householder, but I found it dead bore.
They've obviously taken quite a lot from the Archers, because there's quite a lot of teaching material comes through. For instance, one I saw about the burglary, and that's telling people how to protect their houses and what you must do. You can see that teaching element coming through from the Archers.
You know, you can make a valid will on the back of an envelope.
Sailing's a wonderful sport, provided you know something about it.
Accidents will happen, and nearly always do if you play with fire.
Soap operas have always dealt with social issues in one way or another. The Groves did it in a very, very crude way. Lock your house securely. Don't go sailing unless you know how to use a boat. Look after your elderly neighbour if she needs some money and she's down on her luck. It was very blatant, it was very didactic, it was very here is this week moral.
Yes. Oh, darling, what can he want?
Did you remember to take out the TV license?
But Vernon, darling, I thought that you...
But Angel, I thought of you.
Will you come this way, please?
Have we got a license?
Of course we have.
I've never seen it.
There's no reason why you should. It's nothing to look at.
Well, how do you know? Have you seen it?
Well, no. But Bob always takes care of that kind of thing.
Oh, I hope he does, because they'll be down on him like a ton of hot bricks if he hasn't.
I never know how they find out.
Those vans, they've only got to pass down the street and they know at once whether you've got a license or not.
How?
Well, it's full of wires and special machinery.
I understand how they can detect a set, but surely they can't tell whether you have a license or
Oh,
not.
that's what you think, but I know better. Miss Jones told me they can tell in a flash whether you've a license or not. If you haven't, in they come, rip the set off the wall and burn it before your very eyes.
Nonsense, Gran.
You can imagine people kind of rushing for the sideboard after the episode finished to see if they knew where their licence was.
I've been telling Dad about this lecture series I'm attending.
I can't imagine where it is.
At the Polytechnic. There's a lot more in modern decoration than you'd imagine.
I mean the licence.
You don't need a licence to attend lectures, Mum.
What lectures?
I was just telling you.
Oh, one thing at a time, please. I'm talking about the television licence.
Why?
Because the detector man's on the prowl outside.
Do you know where it is, Dad? I mean, we always keep that sort of thing in there.
Well, let me see.
I've met some jolly nice people at the Poly. Clever, too. There's a girl named Beryl.
Oh, never mind Beryl, dear. Let your father think.
All right, if you can't be bothered to listen.
Dad, you won't find it on the ceiling.
It was the lower middle class in the early days of post-war television who owned the sets. So this was going to be our public and looking at themselves.
When the Groves first started, it's a certain kind of status symbol, in a way, to have TV. You were kind of one up on your neighbours if you had TV, or one down on your neighbours if they were kind of snobbish people who didn't approve of TV, like satellite dishes now. So the Groves is being watched by people like the Groves, people who live that kind of lifestyle, people who have that kind of decor and who have arguments about the television set, as the Groves do in lots of episodes.
Well, now it's on. Either leave the room or keep quiet and don't ask any silly questions.
Did Dad say what time he'd be back?
He said he might be late.
Oh, good. Can we stay up till he comes?
We'll see. Now, remember, if anybody talks, I shall have something to say.
Gran was an enormous national figure. I think one of the things was that they absolutely adored her irascible temper. And she sort of sat there all hunched up in a shawl, being tremendously bad-tempered, but really good at heart. You know, everyone adored her. So she was very, very popular. I think also there'd been that sort of music hall mother-in-law type joke had come right down, and in a way she was that as well, I think. And phrases like, I'm fain for lack of nourishment, you know, all that, but was very popular and people would always pick up on it.
Am I to be left here to perish?
I don't think there's much danger of that, Gran.
My bottle's cold and I want me 11s.
It's nowhere near 11 yet.
My stomach isn't a clock and I'm faint for lack of nourishment.
Kettle's on. It won't be long. Are you all right otherwise?
I'm cold, hungry and neglected, and she asked me if I'm all right.
Gran became the biggest star. Rather like Ina Sharples in Coronation Street, I feel, because she was a cantankerous old so-and-so with a heart of gold and all that. But she became the one that people asked me about. Whenever I met people, they would always say, how's Gran? How's she getting on? You see, she was very popular. Yes, I would say that she became really the biggest star.
We were very much in the public eye because it was only us. There was no commercial television at the time. And everywhere we went, we were recognized. And that was very pleasant in a way. You know, we got the the traditional seats in restaurants when others couldn't and all of that, and it was very, very pleasant.
Television was still much newer. So anything being, the idea of an ordinary family being taken into your home was very exciting. Be able to see people like you yourself, like your friends. So I think that made a big impact. And also, I think that they were talking about things that people themselves were talking. I mean, all that's the same.
When the Groves first started, it attracted around 4 million viewers, and by the time it finished, it was attracting 11 million viewers, which in the mid-50s is a very large figure. The only programmes that beat it were What's My Line and Ask Pickles with Wilfred Pickles, which were two kind of game panel show type things. So in terms of drama, it was the most popular programme on British TV.
We met the Queen Mum, of course, which was delightful. She was lovely. She was very friendly, and I had the privilege of standing next to her, and she said to me one moment, she said, "It's good, isn't it?" I wasn't quite sure what she meant. I said, "What, Mum?" She said, "The Grove family, the success of the Grove family. I watch it all the time," she said. "I watch it all the time."
The impact of the Groves can be measured, if you like, by looking at what happened on the first night of ITV, when one of the first ads shown on commercial TV in 1955 is Ruth Dunning, Mrs. Grove, Mum Grove, advertising Persil, which is a kind of a testament to how much she'd become the nation's favourite housewife.
Hello, I'm Ruth Dunning, and I'm very proud to have been invited to take part in this first evening of ITA television. It's a big night for all of us, and we do hope you're enjoying yourself. Now, you'll be seeing quite a bit of me in the future in some of the TV advertisements for Persil, interviewing some interesting people.
What absolutely struck me about the episodes I saw was that it's all about consumerism. It's all about teaching the family how to consume.
I've always hankered after a fitted carpet.
I suppose this was the first generation of ordinary people, working people, you know, who really were thinking about having fitted carpets and not only a wireless but a television, holidays, you know, all these things perhaps the majority of people didn't really have before the war, or they were very much seen as luxuries.
What kind of parties are you invited to? This kind of thing? If you find this normal, you belong to the upper middle class or higher. Or is this your kind of party? Could you join in without having to make an effort? If so, you probably belong somewhere in the middle classes. Or is this where you feel you rarely belong? Where you could relax most easily, without formality or ceremony of any kind? If so, your background is probably working class.
The world of the Groves is, in class terms, it's rather indeterminate, it's rather vague. I suppose it had to be so that everybody could identify with it, or a large range of people could identify with it. So I suppose it's, if you were going to put a label on it, you'd say it was kind of lower middle class in a way. But it isn't pinpointed terribly clearly. And in fact, different members of the family seem to be in different class groupings, really.
Peter Brandt gradually eased himself out of the lower middle class into rather a posher sort of image, because I think he wanted that.
I say, do you realise you're holding everyone up? I can't help it, the trailer's jammed. Well, I'm trying to go on holiday. Where do you think I'm trying to go? Pictures? What? Button and puppy.
And when Carol came in, she also talked posh, and there was no sort of northern accent or Cockney accent or anything, which I believe, really, when they started, Peter talked a bit Cockney, but he got rid of that because he didn't want it. And I think it's perfectly acceptable that the next generation, even if the parents are accented, probably the next generation are a bit posher.
Mum, you liked the look of Ronald, didn't you?
Well, it looks all right.
Well, that doesn't sound very certain.
Well, I've never been one for looks myself. I like people for what they are. And I'm not quite sure what that young man is.
Well, he's a jolly good actor anyway.
Too good, maybe.
What do you mean?
Well, he's acting very interested in you. Why?
Why not? What's wrong with me?
Well, nothing, dear. But you're not his class, are you?
Oh, Mum, I never thought you were a snob.
Well, I don't object to him, but how's his mother going to take to you?
They weren't challenging anything. They weren't offering any different ways of living, any different lifestyle options, if you like. It was very much an attempt to say, this is how the lower middle class family is today. And they were trying to teach people how to make the best of things. It's very much about keeping in your place, keeping in your class.
See that the script stresses the solidarity of the home, peaceful, happy atmosphere of marital bliss. It's very important.
It's absolutely taken for granted that Mr. Groves is a sort of paternalistic character who's out working, and he's an authority figure, and Mrs. Groves is in the house. She's completely sunk in domesticity. And that's just seen as normal, you know, that there could never be any other way of doing things.
I enjoy my housework. I wouldn't want to give it up if Bob was twice as well off as he is now. Good gracious. What would I do all day? Twiddle my thumbs?
If a girl is to appear attractive and desirable, a major part of what she earns must go on clothes, cosmetics, hairdos, and of course those capricious nylons. A man can get by for years on one respectable and carefully used blue suit, but how many girls can be satisfied with one dress?
Yeah, well, I think it is a man's world myself, because, I mean, he goes to the dart match on Wednesday, Friday he goes over to Cornwallis, Saturday morning over to Cornwallis, and then again Sunday, and Sunday morning, Sunday night.
And what do you do?
Oh, I just, I could go over there, but, you know, it don't really appeal to me, drinking sort of thing. I have to stay with the children and get them bathed and ready for the next day.
And are you content with that?
Well, not really, but I mean, you can't do much else about it, sort of.
Mum, do you know what? I expect so, dear. What?
I've just been chased down the road by the most enormous great wolf.
Oh, that was fun. Now wash your hands.
British and European societies were very frightened of American popular culture after the war. They thought it would sort of damage youth. You know, there'd be rock and roll and Elvis Presley, all this. You don't see any of that in the Groves, and the children are kind of these sort of Boy Scout types.
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, Dad, I've worked out a sort of rota system for cooking and bed making, things like that.
You have?
Yes. All Mum will have to do is dress herself.
Well, where is this rota?
Here you are. First day. Shopping, Daphne. Cooking, Pat. Washing up, Rodney. Bed making, Dad.
Summer thing, too.
Dusting and scrubbing, Jack.
Hey, steady on.
Coordinating, Lenny. Second day. Well, you see, I'll switch things around a bit, but it works very well.
Let's have a look at this. Second day, coordinating Lenny. Third day, coordinating Lenny. Fourth day, coordinating Lenny. Did you do anything else but coordinate?
No, well, you see, I always think it's better to have the same man doing all the arrangements, otherwise they all go to pot.
Yeah, well, you better coordinate yourself up to bed.
One function of the soap must have been to reassure middle-aged people. You know, here's a very reassuring picture of your children. They're not getting into trouble. They haven't become teddy boys. The girl isn't pregnant and so on. Whereas, in fact, there was more and more worry about teenagers and particularly juvenile crime.
Oh, come on, rubbish.
Of course you will. Come over here, I'll help you.
One of the more amusing aspects of the Groves in the mid-50s was an ongoing debate in the press about the size of the younger members of the household. They were growing up. They were getting too big for their roles. So there was a debate, should they phase out the kids? Should they get rid of the kids, bump them off or pack them off somewhere else and write them out of the series? Or should they take the hitherto unusual step of letting them grow up within the series? This manifests itself in the popular press becoming unnaturally interested in Christopher Beanie's trousers, for example.
There was a very strong debate, obviously, about whether we should allow the children to age in this series, you know, or whether we should replace them with other younger children somehow. And there was a conference which concerned the Pertwees, myself, and Cecil McGiven at the time, obviously because he was controller of programmes. And between us, we decided, let them age. But then we were faced without any younger child. So we brought in this other cousin called Rodney, to represent the younger type in the family again.
Laura, have you read episode 68?
No, why?
Well, they've introduced a blasted kid. Cousin or a nephew or something come on a visit.
Oh, it's not so bad.
Not so bad. He's got all the best lines and the fader.
Good grief.
No one.
That's quite a visit. He's in 69 and 70 as well.
Uncle,
Yes?
can I take my football to play with on the beach?
Yes, if you like.
Yippee! You know, this holiday will be a disaster.
All right, old Moore, so it's going to be a disaster.
It's a shame. Gladys works for us all the year round, particularly for me. And then when holiday time comes round, she has to have all this worry.
What worry?
Well, those two boys will drown themselves.
Listen, Gran, just because your Uncle George fell off the Wallasey ferry, it doesn't mean that our boys are going to fall out of their own boat.
The Groves ran out of steam because it was too reliant on one family and on one set. If you think of the successful long-running soaps, they have various meeting points. Coronation Street has a pub, EastEnders has the pub and the market outside the pub and the laundrette and various shops. Lots of points of intersection between different characters. The Groves had the Groves and nothing but the Groves, and it became fairly obvious that the Groves would have to go.
I think sooner or later the public wants a change, or the powers that be want change. And of course, we all got really rather fed up with it in the end. I mean, the actors, though we were delighted to be employed, wished that we could be employed on something else, because it became a bit tedious after 3 years, you know, day in, day out. And I think everything has to change sooner or later.
Off we go, then.
Yes, right.
Oh, Bob. Oh, I do hope everything keeps safe while we're away.
And now, before the next program, a chance to see one of our new logos. This is an advanced logo that actually moves, as you can see. That is one of the benefits of having visual television. It represents a single eye surrounded by bat wings, and is an extremely enjoyable way to pass the time before the next program.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, puffers everywhere. You're here for the final of the All England Smoke Ring Blowing Contest. The tars are ready. The contestants are climbing into position. They'll be there any moment. And there they go. There they go. Puff, puff, puff. What a marvellous sight that is.
Hi there. Later on this evening, you can see the most famous Lime Grove film, The 39 Steps. And, sorry, I should have paused there. Then the main documentary, The Lime Grove Story, introduced by Ludovic Kennedy, the one who didn't become president. But first, let's meet a real TV legend, Julie's brother, Eamon Andrews, with another fascinating This Is Your Life. Absolutely marvellous. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.